All week, Harris has drawn massive crowds, 12,000 in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, 14,000 in Philadelphia, 15,000 in Detroit, and tonight more than 15,000 in Arizona. People all across the country are legitimately excited about Kamala Harris.
There has been a lot of focus lately, and for good reason, on the huge crowds, all the packed arenas across the country that are out there, all the people supporting the Harris-Walz ticket. We're showing you some of the footage there. And these crowds tell us, of course, that people are excited. They're energized. And Trump's reaction to these crowds has also told us a lot about him.
More on Trump's reaction and the excitement of those crowds after this. Yes, if you want to express your excitement about our videos, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We need subscribers. We're closing in on 500. And ringling that dingling bell so you get all of the latest on our new videos when they come up. So we wanted to spend a little time looking at some of these crowds. We're going to both also get a taste of the local and the national coverage of the excitement surrounding Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. So why don't we start here with the Philly rally?
Hey, Julie, the Harris campaign's work of introducing the United States of America to Governor Tim Walz began in earnest tonight here in Philly in an arena that was packed to the rafters.
We love that video there. A lot of that coverage comes from Care 11, which I believe is out of Philadelphia. They had some really great B-roll for that. Now, following in chronological order, let's look at what happened in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
There's plenty of enthusiasm for Harris and Walz. Look at this line. This says everything you need to know. Standing in the sun, waiting for a chance to get to a Kamala Harris-Tim Walz rally.
Are you trying to go to the Harris campaign event?
Oh, yeah.
You gonna make it on time?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think of this traffic?
Well, I am so happy.
You're happy for the traffic?
You bet. Lots of supporters here today.
All right.
That's great.
12,000 people packed the outdoor rally despite warm temperatures, which Governor Walz acknowledged when he spoke to the crowd. Meanwhile, the vice president again drew a clear contrast between their campaign and the Republican ticket.
Energy was just extremely high. I was able to kind of talk to people as they're walking to their cars to hear their reaction after the rally today, and a message that really stood out to me was the message of hope and joy.
She was very inspiring. Her message of hope, especially with Tim Walz talking about Midwesterners, it's very true. Like, we care about lending and helping him, and that really resonated with me and a lot of people.
Oh, extremely high energy, and everything was so positive. Every single one of the speakers, the audience. Yes, it was a very joyous occasion.
That's what I think of joy. You know, it was upbeat. I couldn't believe the crowd. I mean, it was huge. And we lost our voice.
It's hopeful. And that's, I think, what I'm looking for is hope rather than fear. And being afraid of everything and that everything is bad and awful. She offered a way out of that. And so I hope that that's what people want to follow.
I know we did a lot of We're Not Going Back chants, started in Milwaukee. So glad it's still going, because it's really like the essence kind of the whole campaign that I agree with. Is like, we're not going back. We're really excited for the future, especially my future as a high schooler. I'm looking forward, 2030s, 2040s, you know, she's leading us forward.
You really can get the sense of the excitement there and some of the reactions from the people who attended that rally. And again, this video, we really want to focus on the crowds and the reactions, not so much on the speeches. There'll be plenty of clips from that in some of our other videos. But we want you to get a sense of how this campaign has changed and what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have brought to it. Now let's shift over to their next rally, which was in Detroit, Michigan, in an aircraft hangar. Let's look at that.
We're told this was the largest campaign rally they've had so far.
The campaign says it was forced to change venues to an airport hangar after receiving 47,000 ticket requests to the event. According to the campaign, 15,000 attended, making it one of their largest rallies yet. At rallies like this, where you have people showing up in the heat, showing up because they just met Tim Walz and they want to get more, and they are just meeting Kamala Harris as a candidate, but they're showing up for her in droves. And I'll just say, personal anecdote, I know some Republican women who worked in government for Republican candidates and politicians who are showing up at one of these rallies, who are going to travel across the country.
Yeah, listen to that. Republican women, Republican men, everyone's getting excited about this. And, you know, Trump is getting very upset. And we're going to deal with that. But first, let's jump over to the Arizona event.
You might have seen a few people showed up in Philadelphia the other night. And then 10,000 plus walked into a field in western Wisconsin. And then on Wednesday, the largest crowd of the campaign showed up in Detroit, Michigan. But Arizona just couldn't leave it alone, could you?
Wow. This was the line to get into Vice President Kamala Harris's rally in Glendale, Arizona tonight. Not making this up. This is the actual line. No edits here. Just keeps on going and going. And one look at the size of that crowd showed up to see Kamala Harris speak tonight. Really speaks volumes. Helps you understand why. The Harris campaign estimates that more than 15,000 people showed up to see her and Governor Tim Walz.
And after attending Republican Vice President candidate J.D. Vance's rally last week, I can tell you that there is a difference. Many in that crowd were angry and resentful over the problems that they believe were created by the Biden administration, and re-electing former President Trump is the only way forward for America. This crowd, though, completely different. They've seemed energetic and optimistic. I had a chance to talk to some of them today about what issues they think are most important. Take a listen. What is the energy like in here to you today?
Oh, it's electric, exciting.
I knew Harris was coming and Walz, so had to do and bring my support.
What is your single biggest issue for 2024?
Women's rights. Let them choose whatever they need to choose.
A sea of blue cheering on the Democratic ticket for president and vice president in Glendale.
I think Kamala is going to fight for our freedoms, and not only just for our freedoms, but for education. I'm an educator. I'm a middle school teacher, and so that's what I heard.
What's the most important issue to you in this upcoming election?
I think the most important issue, obviously, women's rights, protecting abortion, but also protecting our democracy. And I think that Vice President Harris is obviously best equipped to do that. She's proven herself, and we're super excited to get her over the finish line in November.
I'm going to hear that our local representatives were for her. I'm very excited about the Republican who is now for Kamala Harris. It's just so negative with Trump. Everything he says out of his mouth is just negative.
The most important thing in this election is just keep the unity.
Many leaving with smiles on their faces, more excited for the momentum building in Arizona for this team.
Reproductive rights, hoping to hear a lot about like LGBTQ rights, environment, stuff like that. Totally heard that. I love the energy in there. It was great.
With less than 100 days until Election Day, the Harris-Walz campaign continues their trek in Nevada this weekend.
We'll get to a little look at that Nevada event. But I think it's important to underline how the reporter indicated the real difference between the Vance event, and also some of the people there spoke about the difference between the negativity that's coming from Trump and all the joy and positivity that we're getting out of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. So now let's move on to the last big rally we're going to look at today, and that's the Las Vegas rally.
As Air Force Two passed over the crowds of the Thomas and Mack in the 106-degree heat, supporters of the Harris campaign cheered while they stood in line. But the heat didn't keep the 19,000-seat Thomas and Mack Center from reaching occupancy. We spoke with supporters about what issues they wanted to hear addressed by the vice president and her running mate.
Water security is very important because we are in a very drought situation in Las Vegas. So for me, that's very important.
Well, I think climate change is one of the biggest issues. I've lived in Vegas basically since '75, and it keeps getting hotter and hotter and hotter.
I'm a female, and I just feel like our body's our choice.
Tracy Carter told us although reproductive rights were top of mind, second to that was housing affordability.
I'm middle class, but it's very difficult to remain middle class. I feel like both candidates have good viewpoints, but I just feel like the one that closely aligns with me is Kamala.
Well, that Las Vegas rally looked like an incredible amount of fun, and we're looking back at some of this footage from the Philly rally as we have a little more discussion of these events. And you can just see, I mean, even looking at this as I'm talking, just the level of, enthusiasm and excitement. And the other thing to note is, the signs that we see, they're all positive. There's no negativity. There's no, making fun of the other side. This is all about uplifting our side. Obviously, we make sharp contrast and joke with the other side in the speeches, but it doesn't get down to that kind of crudeness that you see with the Trump campaign. And speaking of Trump, let's look at Trump's reaction to all of this excitement and all of these giant crowds.
And Trump's reaction to these crowds has also told us a lot about him. I mean, after Harris and Walz filled yet another arena in Michigan with a sea of very real, alive supporters, the former president of the United States and Republican nominee posted a statement on social media, and I'm going to read it to you in full, because seeing it is one thing, but hearing it is another. I'm also going to tell you why. So here it is, quote, "Has anyone noticed that Kamala cheated at the airport? There was nobody at the plane, and she AI'd it and showed a massive crowd of so-called followers. But they don't exist. They didn't exist. She was turned in by a maintenance worker at the airport when he noticed the fake crowd picture, but there was nobody there. Later confirmed by the reflection of the mirror-like finish on the vice presidential plane. She's a cheater. She had nobody waiting, and the crowd looked like 10,000 people. Same thing is happening with her fake crowds at her speeches. This is the way the Democrats win elections, by cheating. And they're even worse at the ballot box. She should be disqualified because the creation of a fake image is election interference. Anyone who does that will cheat at anything." Those are Trump's words. He posted them. Now, if a friend of yours or someone in your family posted that on social media, you'd be very concerned. I mean, you might even try to get them some professional help, like right away. But this is not your older uncle or your neighbor who's losing it. This guy wants to be the commander-in-chief again. Here's what Harris campaign senior advisor David Plouffe tweeted. Quote, "These are not conspiratorial rantings from the deepest recesses of the internet. The author could have the nuclear codes and be responsible for decisions that will affect us all for decades." And he's right. I mean, one of the biggest stories of this presidential election right now should be that one of the candidates is spewing unhinged conspiracy theories, usually reserved for the darkest corners of the internet.
That's the point. We do have one guy who is spewing, ridiculous conspiracy theories. And one of the things we want you to think about, and we know a lot of Trumpies out there watch our videos, and one of the things we want you to think about is, do you want to get on board with more of these lies and insanity? I mean, you watched all these videos. You know that these crowds aren't AI. You know that's ridiculous. And I'm going to show you a video in a second or so, in a few seconds, that shows that even Trump thinks that claim was ridiculous and is unwilling to back it up. But he will continue to posit lies, and you really have to ask yourself, is that what you want to stand next to? Somebody who can't rely on the truth, who can't rely on optimism, has to rely on negativity. And it's a big question to ask yourself, because that's the key in a race like this. Who do you want to represent you in the White House? What kind of morality do you want them to express? What kind of ethics do you want to see them representing? And I think, it's very clear. Now let's look at that. Basically, when he's here, let's look at him being asked about that comment on the AI, Donald Trump being asked about it.
And you said Harris's crowd sizes were AI and that there weren't people there. There's all kinds of video evidence and people who were there who have proven that false. Can you tell us about why you made that claim?
Well, I can't say what was there, who was there. I can only tell you about ours.
I can't tell you what was there, who was there. Now, if you recall, just a few minutes ago, we read out, or we listened to Jen Psaki read out the Truth Social post that he made, where he was very clear what he thought. And that's, it's vital to see that, because there he was confronted by a reporter asking the question, and he immediately backed off because he knew it was ridiculous. And if he was questioned by reporters more often in that kind of blunt way, when he was unprepared, you would see more of that, I think. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure to hit the like and the subscribe, as we said up top. And don't wait. Donate to Permanent Majority. We really need your help, and we could use it right now, right today. So head on over to the website and do that right away.